the picture that we kind of like to start with is imagining the Earth 4.1 billion years ago. If you were to don an environment suit with an oxygen supply, because you would have to, and go through a time portal back to this planet, which was an alien world, it would be completely unrecognizable to us, to an explorer through time, because it was this, the Earth formed around 4.57 billion years ago and had this collision event with a planet-sized body that science has named Theia, that then created the moon in this freakishly rare type of an event. And then it had to sort of coalesce and cool for a while again. That's why it was sort of late to the game. Mars got cool and became solid earlier. And then it went through this period where the atmosphere rained out all that vapor that was released by boiling, hot magmatic rock. And you had oceans forming, and you had huge hydrothermal systems, and you had huge volcanoes. So volcanoes are guaranteed to be around because the mantle is blowing off heat. And volcanoes create these massive island structures or even full sort of continent-sized structures. So here you're in an environment where you don't have the sort of lighter weight granitic continents, but you have volcanic island chains and protocontinents, and you have a coffee-colored ocean because it's so full of iron. There's a lot of iron in the environment. We still see that on Mars. And then you have perhaps an orange or pink sky, where you have very different gas composition in the atmosphere, no free oxygen to breathe. And you have raining down. So in the solar system, you have our planet. If you stood there coming out of your time portal and you looked up by daylight, you would have seen disks, these glowing rings from horizon to horizon surrounding our sun. And this is the accretion disk and the dust materials and ice particles and asteroidal material that the planets are vacuuming up. And Kepler and TESS and other missions, and now James Webb, sees these accretion disks, these protoplanetary disks, with planets vacuuming up material. So there's like a dark band. And our planet would have been vacuuming up this material, and it would have been raining down as big impactors and medium-sized ones and dust particles like snowflakes. And into that environment, organics are falling. So we now know that organic material is coming in from the sky. And if you go up into your gutters of your house, you'll find micrometeorites that have fallen the previous, year that you haven't cleaned your gutters. You'll literally find them, but they're still coming in. And so along all of that, you've got this big coffee-colored ocean, and this material falls into the ocean. It just dilutes. It just sort of falls to the bottom, and material comes off, and it's a very big bulk. So you can't really get any chemistry going. So we chatted about this earlier, wrestling with origins in an ocean, which this sort of doesn't really work because you've got too much water. So you actually need a Goldilocks situation. You need some water and and access to air and some land and a certain type of environment that can lift things into complexity. So our little astronaut comes out on a volcanic landscape, is crunching along a lava field like you'd find in Hawaii, and comes upon a volcano that is now dormant. But at the base of the volcano, and perhaps in the caldera, there are bubbling hot springs. And those hot springs come from rainfall that falls down, gets into chambers underneath, just like you'd find at Yellowstone or Kamchatka or other places. And it heats up into it's like a tea kettle. It sort of boils, and then regularly you get these bursts called geysers. That's an Icelandic word. And these pulses of water are coming out on a periodic basis, and they fill pools. And then pools drain or dry down, and it happens again, and it's literally like Old Faithful every 73 minutes for decades. And it's that engine that's the clue, this repeated flow. And if you look down at these pools, you'll see that there are different colors. Some are acidic and some are alkaline in terms of their pH. Different chemicals have leached out. Different things from the sky have fallen and concentrated, and you'll find the astronaut or the timonaut would find a sludge around the pool's edge. And that sludge, if you actually scoop it up, so say for instance there's a geologist there in their suit next to a biologist, and they're in the prebiotic earth, so there's no life yet, but life perhaps is starting, and they're trying to find out where it starts. So the geologist takes his rock hammer and scrapes the sludge up and says, "Oh, I understand the lava, I understand the mafic lava that's here, and I understand the geology of what I see, but this sludge, since I can't break it with my hammer, I don't call it geology. It's something else. It's just a sludge." But the biologist, what she does is said, "Give it to me. I'll put it into a microscope. I'll look at it. Oh, it's lipids. It's membrane. It's a silvery slick of material that seems to be coming from all the dust particles, and meteorites are releasing this stuff into our little soup pot in the hot spring, and it's layered, and there are little bulbous things coming off of it. And in between the layers are bits and pieces of organic material that get trapped." And she said, "Well, let's come back in 1,000,000 years. Let's just go for lunch back in human time, and we'll come back 1,000,000 years later to the same location. The landscape should be still here. We won't fall into a chasm or something." So they come back and they go crunch, 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 and they find that the hydrothermal pools have shifted. They're all in different locations, but they're still cranking away. And she immediately notices a change, that sludge is now black. It's black. It's like pigmented in some way. It's not as silvery. So she scrapes it up and puts it through a nanopore sequencer, which is a technology that my colleague Dave Deemer invented. It's a little handheld sequencing device. And she notices short little things called polymers. And the polymers are made out of nucleic acid building blocks called nucleotides. They may not be exactly the ones that we know from life, but there are short polymers, and they're repeating, and they're doing something. So then she goes into a full AI simulation of what is going on in the sludge now, and finds a little circuit has formed where the meteorite material, which is called, and I can actually sniff this here, this material here, as you can see a little bit in the bottom of this vial. This is from an asteroid meteorite that fell on the Earth a few decades ago called the Murray meteorite, and it has a lot of carbonaceous material in it. And if I sniff this, I can smell it. Polycyclic hydrocarbons and amino acids are in here, carboxylic acids are here, and nucleobases.